Good evening. The time is 7 o'clock, and I'll now call this budget workshop to order. We have 4 items to continue on from the budget workshop from last week. We will be starting off with Public Works, which is on page 56 and 57 of the budget book for those who are following along. And our Finance Director, Tom Robinson, is here to go over this budget. And we do have our Public Works Director here as well, Ryan O'Halpin, as well as Mike Lestrina is here from the Highway Division. Thank you both. All right, Tom, we're ready.
All right, so we're going to start here with the Public Works Director budget. That budget is made up of 2 full-time employees. One of the other expenses in this is the hazardous waste for the various town members here, and we kind of run that through our lower river cog. And there had been some increases in a little restructure last year that we were that we did not know during the budget cycle. So there was additional monies that we expect to be expended this year than we had initially thought. So we're increasing that, as well as we're noticing the participation has seemed to increase, and or the allocation of the expenditure based on the participation, which would be because of they increased our allocation through the size. So that's really the main increase in this line item, as well as some increases here for gasoline. The next is the Highway Department. So the Highway Department is made up of 9 full-time employees. Overtime is for the is for storms and the such, but not for snow removal. The service contracts are various service contracts within the Highway Division. Tree removal, there was a request to increase tree removal, so that was increased to $19,000. Line painting was decreased. There was some line painting accomplished this year, and hoping to get that done in the lowered number. Equipment repair and rental, you know, everything that we have to repair and rent seems to be increasing in fees lately, so there's an increase in that number. Storm draining cleaning, there was the price on the bid was up slightly, but there's less drains that we were cleaning, so we were thinking we can get this done in the $22,000 number. We have the gas and diesel here at the 58.5 number. It all depends on the amount of plowing that we have in a given year. Heating fuel, we missed that. That's often driven by the propane at the highway garage, as well as the oil. So we're kind of hoping that we're increasing it against the previous budget, but hoping it's lower than the actual of 2022. That is the increase. That's the information. Road materials went up slightly. That's just due to the continual cost increases in the materials in the road, the asphalt, and in the such. All right, the vehicle maintenance, which is page 61. There are 2 full-time employees, and this is a mechanic and an assistant mechanic. They have overtime. This is the equipment repair line item is the equipment for all vehicles within the town. Board of Ed covers their costs on vehicles, but this could be any other type of vehicle within the town. Goes through the equipment repairs in this fund, and is sometimes as some of the equipment gets aged, the repairs get costlier, and we're increasing that just slightly in hopes. One of the items that has been kind of costly lately was the trackless mower, and we're trying to get that replaced through capital to hopefully so we don't have continued expense on the repair work or the rebuilds. That's about the increases on that. Next budget is the town engineer. Town engineer could definitely be a higher number, but we're trying to be as reasonable as we can, so it's crept up slightly. And it's really based upon the need and the work that's needed within the planning and use department as well as the public works department, and based on projects. Some of the projects are covered by the actual funds where the projects are located, and other ones are going to be done here, or a lot of times the money that's spent on things to get a project started will come out of this, and then hopefully later the remainder of that project will get funded through the project. Street lighting. Street lighting, we're leaving that number a flat number. We have a pretty good rate on our supply costs, and we're hoping that that will remain. And we had done some switch outs to some LED lights, and we're hoping that that continues, but the distribution costs do continue to rise. Grounds maintenance is the next budget. H-Strike cars is here as well. This budget has in it currently has 3 full-time employees, and then also in this budget has a 4th employee. In the part-time employee was then therefore removed out of the budget, but there has been a budget for a new employee here. Overtime is all the overtime for this department. This would be snow removal and any type of storms or any of that nature. Gas and diesel, the costs, we had exceeded the cost last year, and the fees are coming, we were estimating that we were going to be close to that. Ground supplies keep it flat, but there's with this being another full year into the review of the Route 17 park, we're anticipating to need to utilize those dollars for that. So really the main crux of the budget increase is the full-time employee that was hopefully will help with all the athletic fields, all the mowing of various lawns, the plowing of the grounds, and all those various activities that really keep this group busy. Building maintenance, they have there's 3 employees within this fund. Service contracts, a lot of that is HVAC, as well as just various service contracts, pest control, fire and alarm systems. Just all sorts of service contracts continue to be on the rise as prices continue to rise. Telephone, Comcast, we have quite a few accounts with Comcast. They continue to go up, as well as some of Frontier's accounts do as well. And then there's no real other changes to the budget. 71 is snow removal. So snow removal, this is another budget that is based upon the activity. If you look in 21 and 22, we lost heavily on the overtime and then did decent on the salt and road materials that are needed for this. So we putting here a slight increase in the overtime line item as well as the slight increase in the road materials line. We try to keep getting that overtime line to a more reasonable number. It seems like it's very, very difficult to hit the 63, especially once generally every year there's some type of a raise to the workers that are in that group. And so we got to kind of keep increasing that, which we had not done for a while before recently. So that was everything in the general fund associated with those budgets. So the next budgets for this group would be the water and sewer budgets on page 111, starting on page 113. In fiscal 22, there was an increase in the fund balance and this fund by about 150,867, and an increase in water of 114,194, which is a quality improvement to the current deficits that are within those funds. So that was a positive as we continue to work off the deficits within those funds. The revenue here, as you can see, the user charges were still a little we're a little over in our estimate compared to what our charges are there, but hopefully we can come close and get to the number that we're the goal, which is the 1217, to make it break even. This department has in it 3 full-time employees and a half-time of the revenue clerk within the water and sewer department, half split with the water department. For the main component there are the individuals and their families' benefits. That'll get you to the top category. The service contracts is one of the main things in that is the sewer cleaning that we do. We try to do annually. That's usually like a $30,000 to $40,000 component of that number. And then also I believe that's a lot of the Bassett disposal. That's a true statement, right, Ryan?
Correct.
All right, and then the remainder of those costs there, we do have some money set aside for legal and engineering based upon our needs of on-call experience there. Those are budgeted. We have had a few various repairs that are required, and we have seen that on some of the aging. There are some ARPA projects that are going on in an effort to fix some of the items. There's some also capital projects that are going on to fix some of the items, but the plant has become getting aged in some of these areas, and we have a concern there of repairs and rental when things are go sideways a little bit in like a pump station, the rental of a replacement or of an emergency replacement, they're very, very expensive, and can be a big expense quite quickly. Everything else we've remained mostly the same, except on electricity. We saw a slight dip in 22 with some of the other projects going on and some of the other. You would think we'd hopefully see an improvement, but there's you got 2 years in here where there's a distribution costs that continue to increase from CLMP. So we're trying. Electricity is just one of the main components of this entity, and to help it run. And heating fuel as well. We were a little shy on our estimates in the past on that, so we had to raise that slightly. Next is the water department. The water department this budget is we have some expected anticipated savings and a possible decrease in the water cost from MDC. So we see that in line 38012, and we're trying to make the metered sales number kind of be as close between 2022 and a part of 21 there, where we came in with this 989, 497 number, in efforts to hopefully maintain, where we're going here and keeping the funding going. This department has 2 main employees and then a half-time assistant for the tax collectors in the tax collector's office for the water and sewer clerk. Those are the benefits associated with that. There's various service contracts. Most of that is for testing. We're trying to see if we can get that within, and just testing an HVAC. So we're hopefully seeing if we can get that within that 30,000, closer to a number between 21 and more than 22. So we have the 30,000 number there. Discussed the water potential decrease. And then there is some debt that's still there, as you see on page 118. There's clean water notes, and those are for the High Street water main project and the water tank projects. We did increase the transfer to capital slightly, as the capital needs continue to rise, and but overall a slight decrease in expected expenditures, and again due to the expected savings in water. Next, the budget is 122, which is the Town Aid Road Fund. This is a grant from the state. It's an excellent grant that we get annually to improve our roads. It's a main component of our chip seal program, as well as some other times we can actually do a direct pave of a road. So it's a great program by the state, and we budgeted the amount coming in as the amount utilized. Resource recovery. We have the revenues here. Revenues are challenging in this fund. The permit fees come in quite well, and last year metals came in quite well, but some of the other the bag fees sometimes come in a little lower, and some of the bulky waste has come in lower than we had projected. So we're just under budgeted what we had for charges for services last year. We hope to achieve those or close to it. But as you can see, in reality, sometimes there's a swing there between maybe $161,000 or $162,000. There is an increase in the transfer out, and that is the amount needed to balance to the required expenditures. The expenditures are made up of 2 employees in this group with the related benefits. There are service contracts, and most of the service contract is related to the grinding that needs to be done annually, and sometimes we have at least 1 in there, to possibly 2. Sometimes there's also a service agreement for the compactors. As well as the software system that's there as part of the scale system. We increased gas and diesel slightly as they were utilizing those amounts. We are hoping possibly that we'll have, with the improved new vehicle, we're hoping that becomes a little bit more energy efficient than the previous vehicle, but right now we were trying to balance that component out. And then MSW and bulky waste are kind of driven off of, bulky waste is driven based off, if we have the revenue of amount, then we need to have a corresponding expense. And similar to municipal solid waste, we do have a similar rate, so we're hoping that that will stay consistent. We're still in there, whether we have recycling in there as a 0 cost for most of the single stream. There are some other types of recyclings that are required to have a cost, but we'll have to keep watching that. If that changes out, that'll be a costlier endeavor. There are equipment items that are needed in this fund, but to keep the transfer down, we did not budget any of those transfers, but they did have container requests and and like that, and some of the covering requests. So there are some potential needs that may come up that may need to be purchased directly out of the fund if the fund has revenue and fund balance in it. But I just wanted to share that with you because I know they did bring that up. Next fund is on 130, which is the building maintenance fund. This fund is a fund shared with the town and the board. We normally put in $82,000 for this fund, and it'll be $41,000 for the town and $41,000 for the board. The next fund that's up is the Park and Rec Fund. That Park and Rec Fund, it continues to come back, trying to attempt to come back from the COVID, as well as to try to get the Kids Blast program to come in stronger, and be more people be in that program to get the revenues try to be closer to where we were. So we've kept the revenue estimates similar to where we are, as we're hoping to keep growing those. And on the expense side, the director continues to watch the expenses and tries to keep them in line with his upcoming and projected revenues. The Parks and Rec has 2 employees, and they also have the clerical employees. Those are the 2 main employees, and then there's the temporary payroll, and that's for the Kids Blast program, and then there's the teen recreation payroll. That's for all the other recreation payroll, all the other recreation programs. And overtime is, again, that is overtime mostly for the custodians that are involved in being in where the programs are being run. The next page, there are program activity expenses that are kind of corresponding with the program revenue on the previous pages. Overall, a 1.42% increase into the expenses. Next page would be the capital improvement. So this year there was the interest rates are at quite a high price to try to do any type of a capital lease program or anything of that nature. So that wasn't in the cards for us this year. But we do have set aside $333,000 of general fund items, Board of Ed system wide improvement for a vehicle for one of their programs that's required. The fire department looking for an SCBA bottle replacement to get that to keep it in their compliance for the SCBA. Fire replacement for the outboard motor on M7 for $40,000. The Department of Public Works is in need, again, we talked about earlier, the trackless mower. That's run during the summer or during the winter. It's a significant frontline vehicle that's run quite a bit, and that's a $205,000 item with the respective attachments. Our annual allotment to townwide computers is $18,000, and our set-aside monies for the revaluation were $15,000. For LoSiP and Park and Rec, LoSiP we had set aside $25,000 for park and field improvements, and municipal parking lot improvements for $18,563, and masonry improvements for $20,000. The plan here is it's set up as after the first year it's kind of like a wish list, but it's something that we try to be all inclusive so that we have in the items there so that people know what the potential issues are that are coming forward and coming up or could come up. As well as it's helpful to have the items within your capital plan if you go for a grant, because a lot of times they'll ask to say, was this item actually in your capital plan? So we try to do, we try to include as many of the things as we can and be as inclusive as possible. The other items that on page 141, we had talked about the sewer. We have the $45,000 to replace the utility truck and tail lift. There might be a need in that number to increase that slightly based on some of our current estimates with the 2020, was it the 24 chassis and stuff? So, but it would be, if we do that, it will be we'll lower some item from the plant and system improvements. We'll just reallocate that for the, you'll have that for the next meeting probably for us. Yeah. So that is, we did once, so we put in $45,000, we put in half of it last year, and now we're trying to put the other half in, but we did get some updated quotes, and we want to make sure we put enough to not be able to buy it once we put the money there. We have plant system improvements, pump station improvements of $50,000, plant system was $230,000. Starting to start putting away on the sewer SCADA of $20,000, and then pump replacements of $20,000, and manhole improvements of $10,000, and replace lab equipment for $5,000 of a total of $380,000. And on 141 for the water and sewer, we have $250,000 in total. Facilities improvement of $100,000, water storage tanks of $22,000, replace main line valves of $50,000, remote mead readers and reading equipment of $45,000, and reservoir dam repairs of $15,000, and replace fire hydrants of $18,000. Did you have any, was there someone in the Capital Commission that was going to give their report, or?
I did share that report with the board, I believe. The board did receive that email. We did unfortunately get the Long Range Capital Commission's report later this year than typically they would submit that report, but I did share that with the board as well. I know it's an extensive list, and certainly want to thank them for all their work that they put in, and all the department heads for meeting with the Long Range Capital Commission as well, because we use that report not just during budget season, but throughout the year as well. Is that all you have, Tom? So would you have any questions for Tom? And I know Nate is here as well. I missed you earlier, Nate. But anything for any of the administrators in Public Works or Parks and Recreation?
Tom, just a quick question for you before you make a run for it. And it's a small thing, it's maybe an easy one. I know like in Public Works and some of the other departments, the payroll's indicated straight, maybe there's overtime in there, and there's not much other in there. In a lot of the Public Works, like Resource Recovery Department, there's overtime, longevity, medical insurance, those are all filled in. Is each department, is the price, is like, for example, in the Resource Recovery Department, are all those extra charges built into the regular payroll that we see in other departments, and how are they broken up? Why would they be different?
Those are funds, right? So those are individual funds where they
Right.
allocate out.
Right.
The revenues are associated with the fund, allegedly kind of like a standalone fund.
Right.
So you try to allocate out the costs associated with those funds.
Right.
The other funds are all within the fringe benefit line item in the general fund for all their employees. It's very, I mean, it's.
I don't really understand that.
What's that?
I said I don't really understand that. It may be a small thing. I mean,
I'll say it another way. So the funds, so you have fund accounting and general fund. The general fund are where all your town employees are. And there's numerous changing going around in the town general fund by departments often. So you kind of keep all your benefits in one line item, in one department.
Mm-hmm.
These individual departments have revenue generation, And therefore, the expenditures associated with the people as well as their fringes get allocated to that fund. So you actually see those in that fund.
So for example, Public Works, they're not generating revenue, so there's no need for that, but on the other funds where there might be.
Yeah, well,
Resource recovery.
it's like you're trying to keep the costs associated with those people.
Mhm.
That fund is this much expense to run that fund. Otherwise, it would just be the general fund would be covering those fringes. And your transfer would be lower, but the general fund would cover all the fringes. But you wouldn't really know your exact cost of those funds.
Okay.
That's why it's.
Mike, you can see all of the general fund
Right.
budgets on page 101.
Right, yeah, no, I saw that too.
Okay.
I just didn't know if there was a reason why it was separated out. I mean, I'm sure the numbers all equal up, but because it looked like it was pretty big numbers there, I just didn't understand it, so.
They are big, they are large numbers.
Yes, they are, people costs,
Yeah, it's based on what they're, whatever they have.
of course.
Yeah.
Tom, I have a water question. So on the, for water department, we show an estimated revenue decrease of 65,000 meter sales, which is pretty much associated obviously with the NDC water contract being about 65,000 less. We are not putting in a rate change, so why wouldn't the number be the same for both sides? I mean, well, what I'm going to say is the metered sales should be the same number. The MDC potentially could be lower, but your MDC, your metered sales number should be the same, because you're not decreasing your rate. Right?
Well, if you, what we're trying, like I said in the earlier, in 21, you had 1,116,000 of revenues, and in 22, you had 960 of revenue. So we didn't hit the 146 that was budgeted. Well, we hope to hit it, but we're not sure we're going to hit that 146 that we budgeted this year. So if we were trying to get it more in line to say that we're budgeting sales in line with what we had in the 22 year. So it's kind of like a split between the two.
It's just your estimate, it's not related anything to any sort of a rate difference. It's just your mere estimate of trying to gauge as close as you can to potential real use.
Yeah, in this budget, we have our estimates of everything else, and then the offset is that number. So if we estimate the others to be 32, 5, 412, 91, 11, 4, 4. So then the difference is, to make it balance, is that number.
Yeah,
And it came within 929, which seemed, 989, 497, which seemed reasonable based upon the
yeah,
amount of last year's revenue.
okay, I got you. I just want to make sure I understood.
I have one, Tom. 69 cell phones. Is that just the cell phones for the town building maintenance department?
No, it's all town employees
Okay,
that have them.
thank you. And then,
Which
116.
oddly enough, none of the town building maintenance employees have one.
Of course it helps.
And then on page 116,
Mhm.
private fire protection, 11,400
It's a revenue.
revenue.
It's a revenue source for private fire. It's revenue generated from I believe it's from the private fire systems that are within businesses.
For the, for the maintenance on them?
There's a fee associated with it. It's a very consistent, it's been that consistent.
Right,
fee.
I was just curious of what it was, so it's the.
I
fee.
believe it's the fire, is that true, either Bob or Ryan, that's what it is, right? It's the fire. I thought it was for this up here, but.
No, I think, we have, like, standard nap and stone container, they have, private fire.
Correct.
And I think that could be part of that.
That is what that is, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a revenue from a fee to the private businesses. And I checked the revenue, it matches last year
Okay,
for this year.
So that's what they pay us for that private line, basically.
Yeah, I would have to dig deeper to find out who exactly. Who exactly.
All right. That answers that. That's what I thought.
Yeah. I got a question for Ryan. For the containers at the transfer station, are we in pretty good shape condition-wise, and for how many we have? I know we got one or two with the new truck.
So, I had originally proposed in capital to get 2 new containers down there. A few of them are pretty dilapidated. We'll probably have to go down with the mechanics and weld up some of the steel on it. But each container, I got a new quote, and they are approximately, well, they're $13,906 a piece plus shipping. So about $15,000 a piece.
Are those the bulky waste containers, or are they all containers? Which ones get damaged the
Every
most?
container is about, it's the same container.
But the bulky waste probably get the most abuse, is what you're,
Yeah. But all of them, they're aged. We got a new one in last year. But before then, I think it was 4 or 5 years. So we need to start
was
at
there
least
any,
one at a time, trying
any
to.
talk about if that new facility opens up, eliminating bulky waste from our dump and just sending everybody down there?
I haven't really talked about that yet. But it's something to discuss.
One other question I had. Last year, the town did the curbside pickup for brush, and we do it every other year, so we don't have it this year. Would you be opposed if there was like a 2-week period that there wasn't a dumping fee for brush for residents?
I'd probably have to look into that on where we're at with revenue and what that would do to our revenue, because people might then hold their brush until that week.
Yep.
And then we get it all, where right now we're bringing in steadily, $40 a ton.
Okay.
But that's something I would have to discuss, I think, with Ryan and Tom.
We looked at it last year just because it was funny that the town would go to their house and pick it up for free, but if you put it in your truck and brought it to the dump, they charge you for it.
Yeah.
So that's why we did it last year.
So you're saying at the same time that we do the pickup?
Yes.
To do free at the transfer station? Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, you're spending the gas and you're making it easier for us, so why should you have to pay then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other questions for Ryan?
Hold on one second. Just checking. No, I'm good.
Under snow removal, road materials, what's, salt, liquid, like what's involved in that line item? Purchasing?
It's just treated, or not treated salt, just salt from Morton Salt, and that's delivered price. And then there's a material called Magic -0 that we spray onto that salt that treats it ourselves. It's less money to do it that way rather than buying treated salt.
So that line item, are those two purchases?
That's it.
With the relatively late winter we had and stuff, how's the storage shed right now?
Full.
Well, do you
Yep.
think we can lower that for next year then? We won't need as much?
next year could be.
Or you're starting out the year already with a full shed, where in the past you probably might have been empty at.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
point.
the thing is, you never know what you're gonna get. I mean, we had a good winter as far as costs go this year, but next year could be really bad. I would say we should run with the average, because 2 years ago, we were way over on the budget as far as overtime.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the material, not the overtime.
I think the shed is usually full. Mike can maybe speak to it a little more, but the shed is usually full at the end of the year.
Because your 2-year average would be about 63,000. You budgeted for 84. You only spent 40-something so far this year, so it's been trending down. I was wondering if we can bring that number, and Mike, if you want to speak to it, it's up to you. You're, go.
Yeah, it's like Ryan said, it depends. It depends on the year. This year, we had 16 events, 12 of them were ice. The rest were snow. By keeping the shed full, which we try to do, saves us money, because next year it can go up. But can you take some of the money out of it? It's a crapshoot.
Mhm.
But we're in good shape right now.
All right, just wanted to know if it was an option. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Now we're in trouble.
I'm just on that topic, one of the things that you want to be just careful of is building other operating revenues off of a potential revenue that you're, an expenditure that you're going to possibly need to bring back. So, you know, if you were looking at, do you want to leave it flat? Maybe leave it flat, but I don't know if it would be something you want to decrease, because if you had a savings in it to 1 year, and then you have to recoup it and bring back that money, you want to keep the funding of that fund of the snow removal, because it's such a unknown. You kind of want to keep that growing, or where you are, you really don't want to lower it because it's such an unknown. I mean, there's years where you just blow it up, and as well as the cost just the salt cost just continues to go up. It's way more costly in per ton than it had been, but it's just that, you know, thankfully this year we didn't have much snow. And we do have, there are commitments that they have for certain amounts, so when you put in what you're gonna buy, you have to kind of buy a certain amount of that, where they're committed to be part of the state program. But that's another piece that they have to kind of go off of, is there's a baseline that they have, there's a minimum that they have to buy
To get that price.
to get the price, and then you also, but then you're telling them you're buying more or less the double, you know, double of that. So it's, there's kind of a built-in way to be part of the program. So I just wanted to bring that to your guys' attention.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
That makes sense.
Clear. Ryan, I got a question, I don't know if you would know, for the street lighting, not about the pricing, but do you know if we have all LED lights now in town?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
You hear that Tom said the majority?
Yeah. I think I might pick that up.
Yeah, I'll look into see if we're gonna continue to work on swapping those out, especially with electricity costs going up.
Because I know we done a lot in the past few years, I wasn't sure if we ever met 100% yet.
I know anything that goes out, we replace it with an LED.
Okay.
Any other questions for Ryan? Also have Mike here, Nate, and Andy.
If Nate would like to go up, we've got questions for you, Nate, if you'd like to go up.
Next target.
Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, thanks, Ron.
Thanks, Ron.
you're asking for a fourth guy,
We are.
correct? Could you just give us a brief explanation of what the duties will entail and how it'll help you out, I guess, just so we can understand?
So, the extra position, it will eliminate our part-time guy that we have from April to October that primarily does a lot of our athletic field painting. And that's 24 hours a week right now that we allocate to that, whether it's one person doing it, two people doing it. To gain somebody 5 days a week during the summer, especially, we're going to be able to move forward to kind of where we were prior to gaining the new park, which is absolutely time-consuming with the facets of the irrigation system, trying to keep an eye on the playscape, the splash pad, just general maintenance that needs to be addressed every day. So bringing back to, in the past, we used to clean Main Street. And, I mean, at one point, we were doing it every week. Maybe that's a little overkill. Maybe once a month. Having an extra person during the seasons to do that it's just, to me, it's more bang for your buck than just focusing on athletic fields. And, I mean, mowing's not the biggest part of what we do. Obviously, it's one of our major tasks, but we are the athletic fields, the playscapes, the irrigation systems, the garbage, there's always a phone call that, tree limbs fell down. If you have 4 guys besides myself, you can have 2 crews of 2 going out. It kind of frees me up to do some other things. I feel like I've fallen behind in just office work and scheduling things because there's a lot of times I'm not interested in sending one person out alone. It's just not, especially if there's any sort of risk involved. And there's a lot of times that we are doing jobs that require multiple people. So I think it's time. I think with, the Riverfront Park, when we took it over, it was a very basic area to maintain. It's beautiful. There are just the labyrinth that was added. That is a ton of handwork. You've got to make sure it looks good when you're done. There's just walking around it, blowing it off after you're done, mowing it is time consuming. The big area they're adding just as you pull in. I'm assuming that's going to all be maintained as well. The airline trail, we're out there, we're mowing that area. There's a lot of times where we're out. If something big has come down, we go down, we'll clean it up. If not, we've always got the highway with some of the larger equipment. They're right by our sides doing it. I think we've gotten to that point where, like I said, moving forward, that's where we need to be.
Last year, we actually talked about how you guys, used to clean Main Street, and we asked, is that something that could come back once a month?
Yeah.
Because, like you said, maybe once a week was overkill.
Yes.
But it'd be nice to see it cleaned up on a regular or planned basis.
It breaks my heart to come over the bridge and see weeds growing out of cracks and to see piles, and nobody uses sand, but there's sand all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I'm glad that you guys have kind of thought about that, because it really is, it's just curb appeal. You come over the bridge, it's nice to see.
Is this also a position that, if it came up, not on a regular basis, if highway needed somebody, that person could go to them for a day or two if they have a project where they need somebody?
Absolutely.
It's not working on a class or?
No, because my guys have helped with water main breaks, they've worked with the highway department, they've, whenever I mean, just as they help us, we're willing to
So,
jump
so it
on.
won't be viewed as just a grounds person, it's a public works person.
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, Nate, while we're on the conversation, I'll just ask the question.
Yeah.
Before I was gray, and before you were gray, I was the foreman of the Park and Rec Summer Town Crew. I think you probably worked on it years ago, too.
1993.
What do you think? Is there any thought about resurrecting something like that for part-time college help in the summer? If you could put all those guys on lawn cutting and on field lining and stuff like that, would that free you up if we were to resurrect something like that?
I think,
Or is that equal to the part-time person you have now?
Well, that's why I'm wondering, money-wise, it might be equal, but without the benefits and everything else that you're paying that summer help, you might be able to get, in the heat of those summer months when you got grass growing like crazy and weeds to pluck, we had 5 or 6 guys on the crew.
we did, so I guess where I get nervous about having part-timers, and I'm starting to see what we've attracted for some part-timers. Last year, the part-timer we had was absolutely amazing. And
Pickings are slim, I get it.
I think instead of me being productive in actually getting work done, I may be chasing people and just making sure that the work is being completed. And that's not, I mean, personally, that's not what I want to do. I like being out there getting things done.
Like all these guys, I mean, I'm just looking at all the expenditures that we have coming down the road, and I'm always trying to think of ways that we can mitigate some of that, and, think
Absolutely.
outside the box.
Absolutely.
No answer is needed, but I just wanted to put the thought out there.
Okay. Anything else?
There was just whispers of a faulty mower with the wing mower, and I don't see it on your capital improvement plan for this year. Is it something that's gonna be held off till next year, or what's the status of that?
I had put it in for capital.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it went. Yeah, our 16-foot Toro, which mows about 40 acres of just athletic field turf twice a week. So 80 acres, in total, besides some general lawn. That machine has given us some issues over the past couple of years, and it's gone down for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. And that's when our life turns into work chasing mowers. Because instead of one guy or 2 guys mowing athletic fields and general lawn, it turns into all of us, that's what we're focusing on. So, yeah, I'm not sure where it got taken out of capital. It's year 2, okay.
There you go.
There you go, yeah, perfect. Okay.
If you know offhand, what's the year and like,
That we have right now?
Yeah.
I believe it's a 2014, I think it's got about 4,000 hours on it.
okay.
Yeah, you see it on page 139, Mike? 139, 890, 50 is grounds maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
This is right there, right on
The top one, 155?
155?
For a price?
Yeah.
Yes, I think so, right in that area.
Yep.
Updated price on it is $157,204.
But who's counting?
Let's start at 151 on long-range capital, so I don't know, we're already up to 6,000.
Is this one of the pieces that's like 6 months, a year out, even if you had the money to order it?
I believe so.
A year.
Year.
It's a year out.
So by the time we get it, it'll be 170.
Well, when you place the order.
You lock in the
He'll
price.
lock it.
But yes, if it's not in this year's budget, next year's it's gonna continue going up, same as what we've seen on all the equipment.
I know with the other mower, there had been expensive repairs. What have the repairs been on this one lately, for the last couple of years?
We just repaired it for 3,300, and that was one of the right side mower, or the motor.
It was a drive motor, one of the hydraulic drive motors, but there is still some sort of an electric gremlin that Toro could not replicate the problem. The problem is you'll start the machine, you'll warm it up, you'll take off, and we've had it die in the middle of 17, just shut off completely, and then it will not refire. Kudos to the Portland Police Department for getting fuel at that time and kind of helping with traffic, because we had to disengage the hydraulics and tow it back to the garage. We've had it die in the middle of fields. It's just, and Toro had it, and we can't get it to do it. So it's an intermittent electrical problem. I think our mechanics are going to continue to take a look at it and see if something jumps out at them. I mean, the machine overall is a great machine. I mean, it's whatever is going on we don't have a lot of confidence in it right now.
I know the track list, they talked about selling that when the new one comes in. Is this something that would be worth selling, or we would keep it as a spare because of its condition? It wouldn't be worth selling.
I mean, you're probably not gonna get what it's worth. I think the root of the answer is if we could just figure out what this issue is so that we can run it. You know, I think the machine, I mean, they fetch decent money. You know, do we need to? We have a tow behind, like a 16-foot tow behind mower for our Kubota. It's great on wide open fields. The high school, Valley View, athletic fields, perfect. The soccer fields at the rec complex, perfect. It's the maneuverability, the speed. It's not what these specifically designed mowers excel at.
Just one question. With an extra person, does that help eliminate or reduce down the overtime? Based if you have an extra body that you can plug in.
Well, I would say so during snowstorms. When we have a legitimate snowstorm where we're just out pushing, once it stops snowing, we're at least 8 hours to clean up. You know, our sidewalks are kind of what take us forever. So if you have a second person, even if they're only doing a portion of the sidewalks along with plowing, that would definitely reduce overtime that way. Throughout the year, we've been lucky enough where, unless there's storms, we're not doing a ton of overtime. Really, the overtime, and I try and take it for sporting events, would be school sports. And I figure it's my responsibility, so I'll take it. You know, if we have baseball games or softball games on the weekend.
Thanks.
Any other questions for Nate?
All right.
Thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, good seeing you.
Any other questions for anyone?
I've got just one general question, and it may have been answered before. With the Route 17 park in the complex, what's the estimate or guesstimate for how much extra work it's costing our departments to maybe maintain that particular property? I know I've been asked by, a number of people, that it'll add cost or whatever, but if someone had to peg a number to what the Route 17 park is, either extra cost or maybe we're able to do it with what else we have, like, anyone have an idea, roughly?
So I'll tell you, oh,
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna ask Nate from, you know, getting rid of Tomaso and Ingersoll and everything going to the park.
It's like a net balance.
Is the acreage the same, more or less?
It's more. There's about 7 acres of land there. You know, Tomaso and Ingersoll, there was really no handwork when it
Yeah.
came to like the maintenance area of it. There's a lot of handwork at the Portland Rec Complex. To mow the general lawn, it's about 8 man-hours. There's 4 of us can go down, bang it out 2 hours, but then you're also there 2 other times during the week mowing the athletic fields at probably close to 2 hours each time. The irrigation system, like I said, that has been, I'm there every day in the summertime, just making sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. Because I don't have a ton of confidence in that when the splash pad is running and there's a lot of integration between the two, and if just a hair is off, they don't talk, they don't work together. You know, I'd love to be able to spend a little more time inspecting the playscape, making sure that, you know, to catch problems before they become problems, before we have a piece that's falling off. So it's a time-consuming event, that part. It's beautiful, everybody loves it.
Absolutely.
I'm glad we have it.
But it's high maintenance.
It's high maintenance, that's okay.
Well,
Or are we gonna do that another?
we do have our fire chief and fire marshal here as well. It's not on the agenda for
Okay.
the workshop today, that's
All
why,
Okay.
I mean, if you,
No,
I mean,
I'll wait.
if you have a question, I mean, it's technically not on the agenda, but if you want, I mean.
No, we'll put it when they're on the agenda then.
Okay, well, we went over it last time. We did go over it already. Yeah, Tom? Is it a capital question?
No, it's just, some questions on, with Bob on,
I mean, this is discussions. I'll allow it if you, Bob, do you want to answer a question or?
Oh, sure, I'm here, but I'm here for the hearing itself.
Right.
It's an agenda related.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
no,
okay.
no, it's just the,
Time away from anybody else.
no, that's fine.
So, okay, unless it's, do you have Public Works or anything?
No,
Okay.
no, we're done with those guys.
So we still have deliberations and,
Right.
And so, are there any more questions before we move on? Okay, so typically, when we do these budget workshops, we schedule an additional workshop, and that would be tomorrow evening. Tom has gone through the budget in its entirety with you all. It's up to you if you feel we need the budget workshop. I think we've covered everything, and the next step are those deliberations that I mentioned, which would be on Tuesday of next week at 7 PM, and then on Wednesday at 7 PM as well. So it's up to you guys if you want to and not have the budget workshop tomorrow. I just don't know what we'd cover unless you want to cover more. It's up to you guys.
I would think that next Tuesday for me would be fine, and Wednesday gives us time between now and then to dig deeper, and if we have any questions specifically, we can kind of find out and bring it to that meeting, so. I'd be comfortable with Tuesday and Wednesday next week.
I agree.
yeah, I'm fine with everything.
So, and then I'd like to remind everyone then, we'll cancel tomorrow night's budget workshop. And prior to our budget deliberations on next Tuesday, there is a public hearing at 6 PM and as well as a special town meeting at 6:30 PM regarding the Portland High School track replacement. And that meeting location, we've changed that to the Brownstone Intermediate School auditorium, just in case we have, as you can see by this room, it doesn't really hold too many people And although we don't get the audience that we hope for at a workshop, we'll probably get more than anticipated, maybe next Tuesday.
6 and 6:30.
So, what's that?
Yes, what time it was?
Yep, 6
6 and
PM and
6:30.
6:30. So if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, Bob's here, I have a capital question.
Okay. Well, that you can ask.
Ray, stop bugging him. Bob, I got a question for you.
If you want to come up, it's a capital question.
Yeah.
Related to fire?
Yes. Got a two-part for you.
Sure.
For the replacement of the engine on Marine 7.
2 engines.
Yep. Where is that vessel in its life expectancy?
So the life expectancy of the vessel is many years. It's a whaler. Unfortunately enough, when you purchased that boat, we bought it for that reason. It has a very long lifespan, especially for the structure and the way it's built. There's components on it such as the pump, which has been run, and we've used it for fires, and it's run very well, so it's still in good shape. I think the boat and the vessel itself is in still really good shape. This year, we do have to make one repair to it, which is just, it's not really a repair, but it's the undercoating. We do that usually every 2 to 3 years because it does sit in the river. So that maintains the hull. But other than that, it's really just the power supply.
Okay. Not that I'll hold you, what do you expect, like another 8 years maybe?
Yeah, I would
6
say at
years.
least that, probably I think that the boat, for what we're doing, unless that changes, and we need to, if our riverfront builds up and we have, we protect the most marinas,
Yeah.
I believe, on the Connecticut River in one location. So, we're a little taxed there, but we have our mutual aid to help us there. So, what we have, based on how we can respond. You have to remember that we're volunteers, and that's getting slim. Based on how we're able to respond with those trained members that we have, I think that boat is excellent for what we do. Makes quick rescues, supports our dive team, and I think you're going to get a good 8 years out of that vessel. 6 to 8 years out of that vessel. I think if you're running it hard and we put new motors on it, you're probably going to get the same longevity out of those. We've got just about every bit a minute out of the ones that we have on it. We've had numerous problems with those motors related to the packs on them, the energy packs on them, or they think almost all of them have been replaced, and we're still failing on those. So those are Mercuries. We're going to be looking at a whole different style motor.
Okay. What would a replacement price for that boat be? Like, I don't want to put $40,000 engines on a $100,000 boat.
No. So I bought that boat 13 years ago,
07.
07.
Yeah.
That was a $159,000 boat then. You're looking at 200, 225. And you have to understand that it's a fireboat. So you can go out and buy that, or a boat, a 22 or 25 foot boat with, 125 horsepower motors on it for $120,000. You're not going to buy a fireboat for $120,000 because it's built differently. Plus it's molded to have the pump draw from the bottom of the hull. It's balanced properly. It has fire suppression stuff on it.
Okay.
So.
My next one, I hope it's easier than that one. Engine 3, I see that's up for replacement in the next couple of years. Is that beyond the point of being refurbished and saving it?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to get any value on refurbishing that because you're going to start getting into $50,000, $60,000 pump repairs, if you can even do that. Engine 3 it's special. It needs to fit in a firehouse that's basically a little smaller than your house.
You said
that
that
you live
the
in.
last time we spoke about it, right?
So that's a very custom pumper. When we get time to replace that, which needs to be soon, you're going to be dealing with more of a custom build than something that's like off the shop that we're trying to do now with engine 2. You got to carry the water. because that's your ISO rating, so you need to be able to fit 1,000 gallons of water on it, and you sacrifice the seats by doing that. So we sacrifice the seats with water because of the size of the firehouse that it fits in. So we go down to basically a 3-man cab, which is just the front seat, and we have to carry the water, and that's just about all that will fit. So we have to build it not only to carry the water, but we have to build it shallow enough to make the garage door low enough, which was a challenge even on the new tanker, because they're not building them that way anymore, because most people are building big firehouses. So that's going to be a challenge, there's no funding capital this year. We were looking to get half of that. And I see that, that's a very difficult year and it got pushed out. But I don't know what your plans are to do for that, because you're probably looking at $900,000 to $1 million for that truck.
So the bigger thing I'm worried about is, I'm worried about the fact that we pushed it out, but, so based on, I would guess it would be at least 2.5 years before you would see a lick of a truck.
Oh, yeah.
Even a
yeah.
year and a half, it'll be a year and a half before, we're talking about putting in the budget, and it's available in the budget, and then another year to build it probably.
Probably longer than that.
Yeah, we're getting, as a matter of
So-
fact, Ray just showed me, we're getting estimates now, this week, of 730-day builds for fire trucks. You can sign it, but you're just not gonna deliver it. Right.
So, on that situation, do you have to show proof you have the money in the budget, right? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. To
so
sign a
it- So it couldn't
contract.
happen,
Right.
at the minimum, it's a
Yeah.
year and a half,
Right.
where you'd say, okay, it's in this book that shows it's in the
Yeah.
budget, and they'd be comfortable with doing it. So you're talking 2.5, and, I don't know.
I mean,
If you go on that, you're talking 3.5 years before you're seeing.
Right, and like I said before, it's not a leasing category anymore. It takes too long to build the truck. That was great in a fantastic option that we started years ago with the ladder truck, when we could do it in 10 months, in 8 months. But now, you're out 2 years, year and a half to 2 years for these builds. So now you're looking at different types of funding. So that's where it's so critical, as I spoke in capital, about how we start funding those pieces of apparatus that are taking that much time to build, where we really need to utilize capital to do that. And you need to plan for those long range. So much money every year, and then every 3 years there's a new vehicle. I mean, you look at our ladder truck, it's 12 years old. Ladder's 12, engine 1 is 6.
Already, huh?
So ladder
Yeah,
one is
so it's getting
almost
older.
halfway through its life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The ladder is almost halfway through its cycle, so in another 8 to 10 years, your ladder trucks, oh God, I don't even know what you're looking at. 1.6 million, it's insane. We bought that for 685,000. So things are changing. I don't know if they'll stabilize, but the scary part is the availability to get stuff how we used to in 8 months. So that's going to be a huge decision moving forward on how, we're not the only item. There's a lot of items, especially most of the vehicles that highway are using now. They're all getting pushed out for build dates and availability. So even lawnmowers. I mean, who thought you'd have to wait a year for a lawnmower? Used to buy those off the lot.
Where do we stand on engine 2?
It's in the hands to be reviewed. The bid has been written by the committee to the best of our ability for what we can do in a 30-page spec, reducing it from 300 pages. We think that we hit all of the goals that we had in the piece of apparatus that we had hoped to get originally. We'll have to see. We don't know what the cost is going to be, except it's going to be more than we originally asked for, because of the 7% increase, probably times 2. We're hoping to get some good bids. We're hoping that we've kind of locked it into what we here in Portland want to produce and have for a truck. We've taken a lot off. We've added a lot in to make it work for us, for our profile here in town, the way we volunteer. So that's really critical, that we build an apparatus that we can run efficiently and serves the town for many years. It's a little different when you're volunteering versus career. You have to make it adapt to what we can do here. So
I think we're there. We'll get to bid. I think there's some legal stuff that still needs to be done on that, but we're there. I think Ryan has that package to review. The sooner the better for money increase, that's for sure. Sooner we can lock into something and come to you so we know a number to see what that is. Hopefully, we'll have a good number.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
Anything else related to capital for anyone? All right. So as I mentioned before, we decided to cancel tomorrow night's workshop, and the next meeting will be at 7 PM here in the Buck Foreman Building next Tuesday for budget deliberations. And we have another budget deliberation the next Wednesday, the Wednesday after, and at that time, we'll see where we're at on the budget. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Thank you, Sean. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Ralph. All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for
Good
coming.
night, everybody.